Land back, everyone. Good morning. Welcome,
Land
welcome,
back.
welcome. Come on in the room. Land back, Chief Tacky.
Hey,
Good
land back.
morning.
Land back.
Land back, Uncle.
Make sure y'all sharing this. Share this with
Yes.
your mama, your ex, baby daddy.
Land back, GK, DP.
Land back, DP.
Everyone, start sharing on Facebook. Pull out your phone. Share it to all the groups. If I was on my phone right now, I would be sharing to I'm in these weird plant and cat Facebook groups, and I still share Black Hammer stuff in there all the time. Share. Everyone needs this political education. It's Sunday morning. What else are y'all doing? Share, share, share. And back to you, Boju. Good morning.
Land back, show
back. Land back, Chief Maze. And as you keep sharing, continue sharing, and while you're sharing, also start our donation. Start donating for Hammer City. That's
Land
what we're here. Land back, Commander. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's start our introductions. First, we're the Black Hammer Organization. We're an international revolutionary organization for all colonized people. We're all around the world. And I am the Minister of Defense, Scene. I represent the nation of China, and I use she, they pronouns.
Land back, I'm Chief Anye. I'm the Defense Chief of Staff for the organization. I represent the colonized nations of Africa and Lacono by way of Barbados, and the colonized nations of the Philippines, and I use he, they pronouns. Land back.
Yay. And we're here today talking about our new BookTrap series. It's Ho Chi Minh, Down with Colonialism. Really excited to start this new book. We're going to be talking about Ho Chi Minh and Vietnam and the Vietnam liberation movement. It's just going to be a really exciting month for a new topic. Land back, Chief Bree. Land back. Let's get a few donations before we can start. Anyone got $5, $10 for Hammer City? Shivanja, you want to introduce what Hammer City is for our new people?
Yeah, Hammer City is a city we're making. No cops, no rent, no coronavirus, and no white people. It's important for us to have a bastion of safe space for colonized people, and that's what we're making. And we're very close to buying the land. So just donate, help us build that project, and we can save our colonized people. You can donate to the Cash App at #BuildHammerCity. I know I'm going to send $10 when the show's over, and I know y'all can match that because I don't have shit. I don't have nothing.
$5 from Secretary General. Yay. Who's going to match that $5? 20. That's perfect. Yay. Y'all already got, we're already a quarter away for our goal. We have a $100 goal. We're already a quarter way there. Yay. Let's get started. The show. Another $5. 30. Y'all making this so easy.
Sicko. Thank you.
10. Okay. I think we should just stay here for a few more seconds because y'all, these donations just coming in.
Y'all.
Land back, Chief Sub. Wow, I think we're already at 50. Jesus.
And someone just come up with that. Are we good?
Yes, we're good. $3 from Chief Pat. Yes. Okay, let's get started with our show. Today, I'm excited. We have a trivia first, I believe. BookTrap trivia. So get ready, y'all. Keep y'all on your toes. We got a question for you. So this is, what was one of Ho Chi Minh's pseudonyms when he first began organizing? And as y'all look for these answers and put your answer in the chat so we can see which of y'all have been reading. They didn't talk about this in the book actually, but Ho Chi Minh actually had 50 to 200 different pseudonyms.
200.
Yeah, and they don't even know how many he had because he changed his name so much. Like they're like unable to track how many that he had, which is
It's pretty awesome.
really cool. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, like they like can't really track a lot of his movements in the early years before the war because he was just going to different places around the world.
All they know is he was a revolutionary.
Yeah, he was a revolutionary and he was an incognito. People didn't know where he was, what his name was, because he kept changing his name. So which one of these, A, B, C, or D, is one of Ho Chi Minh's names that he used before he settled down with the name Ho Chi Minh? I saw an answer pop up. I think it's from Chisa. B. Okay, any other guesses?
Another B.
Yeah. Another B. B. Okay.
Y'all confident with this B. Y'all just copying each other.
Y'all been reading? Okay, let's reveal our correct answer. Yes, it was B. And I actually looked this up too. This is the name he was using when he was in the French Communist Party, and this name actually means the direct translation actually means loving your country. It meant like when the patriot, which I think it's a beautiful revolutionary name, and it reminds me of of our process here in Black Hammer, how like a lot of us come into the revolution and we find our revolutionary name. That this, when Ho Chi Minh was in the French Communist Party, his name meant that he loved his nation, which is amazing. Okay, everyone, we're about to jump into our Read That Facts. Before we start our first one, you all should flip through your book, find your Read That Facts, because we're gonna have a section for that where you can drop in the comments. So start flipping through and find your favorite quotes. So this is the first one that we have for today. It says, now the opportunity has come for our liberation. France itself is unable to help the French colonialists rule over our country. As for the Japanese, on the one hand, bogged down in China, and on the other, hampered by the British and American strengths against us. If our entire people are solidly united, we can certainly get the better of the best trained armies of the French and the Japanese. Fellow countrymen, rise up. Let us emulate the dauntless spirits of the Chinese people. Rise up without delay. Let us organize the Association for National Salvation to fight the French and the Japanese. Scroll down. Thank you, Chief Savvy. It says, dear fellow countrymen, a few hundred years ago in the reigns of the Tran, when our country faced the great dangers of invasion by the Yuan armies, the elder ardently called on their sons and daughters throughout the country to stand up as one man and kill the enemy. Finally, they saved their people, and their glorious memory will live forever. Let our elders and patriotic personalities follow the illustrious examples set by our forefathers. Notables, soldiers, workers, peasants, traders, civil servants, youth, and women who warmly love your country at present, national liberation, stand above everything. Let us unite and overthrow the Japanese, the French, and their lackeys in order to save our people from their present dire strait. Dear fellow countrymen, national salvation is the common cause of our entire people. Every Vietnamese must take part in it. He who has money will contribute his money. He who has strength will contribute his strength. He who has talent will contribute his talent. For my part, I pledge to follow in the steps and devote all my modest ability to the service of the country, and am ready for the supreme sacrifice. Revolutionary fighters, the hour has struck. Raise aloft the banner of insurrection and lead the people throughout the country to overthrow the Japanese and the French. The sacred calls of the fatherland is resounding in our ears. The ardent blood of our heroic predecessors is seething in our hearts. The fighting spirits of the people is mounting before our eyes. Let us unite and unify in our action to overthrow the Japanese and the French. The Vietnamese Revolution will certainly triumph. The world revolution will certainly triumph. Land back. This was a really powerful letter that he wrote back to Vietnam during the beginning of World War II. That's why he was saying that both the French and the Japanese were like weakening, right? Like they were both fighting each other, along with the rest of the imperialist world. They were going at war, and Ho Chi Minh saw an opportunity in that moment where his enemies was fighting, where they're weakening each other. He's like, this is our chance as the people to rise up, to build ourselves up, to unite as one, to fight for our own liberation as our enemies are weakening. I think this is a really beautiful passage. It really unites with our principle of unity number 4, about how like colonized people have to be our own leaders, you know, to lead our own revolution. And it also really reminds me of our own stance as Black Hammer when the election and like all the conflict that was going on here in the United States of like between the Democrats and the Republicans, and how we took the stance of like, this is their fight. Let them fight each other. Let them weaken each other out. And then we're taking the time to build, right? We're taking the time to strengthen ourselves, to unite as people, as poor working class colonized people, to like to build ourselves up so we can fight the snakes as it's weakened by its 2 opposing forces. And that, yeah, Ho Chi Minh saw the same opportunity in his country. And I really liked how he talked about how all sectors of his people should unite, and whatever that they can bring, they should bring. It's like, if you got money, talent, strength, whatever that you have, we want it. We want you in the revolution, and you have a part to play in the revolution. And that's how we see it here as well in Black Hammer. Like whatever skills you bring, whatever talent you bring, whatever that you can bring, like we want you in the revolution. What did you think, Chief Anye?
I just love how poetically he writes, as Chief Oju said, and how inspirational it is. And I love like the callback to the resistance of their ancestors, like, and how important that is. Like, he's like, oh, I know y'all can do this because you've done it before. Mm-hmm. Just because you're down bad now don't mean you can't do it again. And I just love that part of it. And does it so poetically. I'm back.
Yes, no, I unite. Throughout history, I think we can see that a lot of our revolutionary heroes are also great writers. Like Mao is also a poet. Like reading through these speeches, and because this was not even a speech he gave, it was a letter that he wrote.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's beautiful writing. And I unite about like the revolutionary ancestors, like calling to awaken his people. Like, I know we can do it. I know that we as people can rise up because we've done it before. And then now is another time for us to take up that challenge. It's really inspiring. Love it. Love this book. Sorry, no. I'm thirsty. And I want to talk about, how this connects back to like Black Hammer and Alone. Like, this is like a similar political line that we take up, but that this is also, like this is how this, like studying these past revolutions and studying like their wins and like their lessons really help us guide us like where we're going in our future. How it guides like the work that we do here, about why we, go out to the outreaches. This is our way of trying to unite our people. This is our way to reach out to the different sectors of our communities, to win them over to our political line, for them to see the importance of our unity. And this is also, and I wanted to talk about, because he talks about not only the French, but the Japanese. And this is a question that has come up before in our organization. Like, where did we as colonized people stand when we look back into history about the violence, or the violence that has been done onto each other as colonized people, right? And how the Japanese colonized Vietnam, China, the Philippines, and other parts of Asia. And then why that we as Black Hammer still want to unite Japanese people today, right? And kind of recognizing that history has, it has changed, right? Like today in 2020, it's not back in 1941, like the imperialist powers and of Japan has weakened. You know, like they're no longer they're no longer the country that they were in the past, and they are still right now after World War II living as like they are being like living under like world colonialism, right?
Yeah, they still suffer like racism against Asians in the same way.
Yes, and especially here in the U.S., like they don't see us as different, you know, like they don't see the different like nations of like Asia. Like most colonizers can't even name different countries in Asia. They see us as one, and yeah, the violence that it's like, you know, that is done against some sectors of the Asian country, like some sectors of the Asian community, they see us all as one. Like Japanese people here do not still benefit from like, you know, whatever benefits that they reaped back, you know, before 1945. Like they don't even have their own army anymore. Like, and that we can't really even rectify. We can't even work towards like, you know, work towards us forgiving each other, or like, you know, like for us to like figure out on our own terms like what restitution looks like between like Japan and other Asian countries, until we can like answer this question of colonialism, right? Until we can unite as one to defeat our common enemy, and then afterward, then we can figure out, you know, all the past problems that our nations have faced around each other. And that's why, yeah, when we talk about how Black Hammer is for all colonized people, that includes Japanese people. That includes Japanese people, and that we can unite as one to fight against colonialism. And whatever problems we had in the past, we can figure that out after we defeat colonialism.
Right.
We got $12 in the comments. Thank you so much for your donation.
What do we have?
Shifanji, what did you think about this? About the question of like Japanese people?
I think it's definitely a hard thing, especially knowing a lot of older Asian people is something that's hard to overcome in that sense. But I do agree that it's something we have to hash out amongst ourselves. Like they should have no say in it. And as long as like we're living under colonialism, they're always going to try to have a say in it. So we do have to defeat colonialism to get over that divide. But it's definitely a hard one to deal with, especially in the older generations. But thankfully, our politic smashes that out.
Yes. And can we bring back SG's comment? SG said, white people dropped a nuclear weapon on Japan. The people of Japan should unite against white power trap they historically fallen into. Unity between China, Japan, Korea would crush Europe and America in the Pacific. No, complete unity. Yeah, we all just unite as one. Then we can unite against our oppressors and bring them down. And Shisa says, I unite. This one was hard for me. Japanese imperialism killed so many of my people, but Black Hammer taught me that this is a contradiction of colonialism and not of the Japanese people. And I know that any Japanese person that has joined the org has washed that blood from their hands by dedicating their life to anti-colonial struggle. I love my Japanese comrades. No, for unity. Land back. Okay, we're gonna move on to the audience. Read that back. Now is the time for y'all to drop your favorite quote from the book into the comment section. So let's see some of those read that backs. Oh, yay! Gonna read this one?
Yeah. Read that back, page 9. The Gandhis and the De Valeras would have long since entered heaven had they been born in one of the French colonies. Surrounded by all the refinements of court-martial and special courts, a native militant cannot educate his oppressed and ignorant brothers without the risk of falling into the clutches of his civilizers. Yeah, I like this because it displays like how brutal like their imperialism was. Like they wouldn't even let these people educate themselves without being killed for it, or like if you're trying to educate people, being killed for it. And we've seen that parallel in America as well with leftist organizations like the Black Panthers, that they're murdered just for educating and feeding the people, and but the work is still important. So even the fact that they're taking on that risk shows how truly dedicated they are to liberating their people.
Land back, yeah, I fully unite. Yeah, in this book they talked about in one of those paragraphs about how how anyone who in the colonies dared to give any education about socialism is like immediately imprisoned or killed. That the colonizer does not want us to know our history and get politically educated, and that's why that's why we do what we do here in Black Hammer too, is that we try to provide as much political education as we can to the masses in a form that's accessible to them. That's why we're here on this Facebook Live every weekend. We have our Tuesday rallies, just how important it is to do this work, and how something as small as political education is seen to be so dangerous, by the colonizer, and by the colony. Like, we literally are just here talking about, history and book and and just, like us as colonized people dreaming, discussing, and working towards like our liberation by just merely talking and providing education is so dangerous to the colony that they would want to kill us for it. Like, we just want to talk to our people. That's it. Any other read that backs? I know y'all read this because it's really good. If you didn't, you better read it next week.
We got no more. Okay.
Oh. I'll read this one. Read that back from Chief Oju. It says, the revolution has made the French imperialists tremble with fear. On the one hand, they use the feudalist and comprador bourgeoisie to oppress and exploit our people. On the other, they terrorize, arrest, jail, deport, and kill a great number of Vietnamese revolutionaries. If the French imperialists think they can suppress the Vietnamese revolution by any means of terror, they're grossly mistaken. Land back. I really united this too. That even though when the colony uses these tactics of fear and they think that they can just like kill by killing off revolutionaries, it would instill that fear within colonized people that like, I don't want to join the revolution because the consequence is death or imprisonment. But it doesn't work like that. Like, our people, the conditions have created that our people crave freedom. They want to be liberated, even if it means risking their lives to do so, because living under this colony is, they're already like, their life is already not in their hands. Like, they're already slowly dying with the like colony taking up all their life forces, all their energy, and the dream, the idea of fighting for something more is so much greater. It's so much more powerful that like, our people is willing to die for it and live for it. And Chief Oju said, the colonizer always uses poor white people to exploit and oppress colonized masses, the whipping class. Yes, full unity. Sorry, Chief Oju, what were you saying?
No, and I unite, like, the fact that I see so many parallels between that and our situation now. The only difference is that they were victorious, and I think they've done a lot to try to stifle revolution here by killing off people. But it's still, like, as you see with them, it didn't stop it. Like, it happened. And so in that sense, I see that our victory is inevitable. So
yes,
it makes me very hopeful. That's why I love this book.
Yes. And I want to say too, like, Ho Chi Minh was just a, like a young person, a young colonized person who saw the conditions of his country and his people, and he was like traveling around the world, and he's like, I want to be a revolutionary. I want to fight against this. And he was only like, I'm trying to think how old he was when he first, because he was like traveling around the world. He went to, I think he went to like London, like Harlem, France.
Yeah,
Like all throughout the world. And he was super young when he join the French Communist Party. I think he was only like in his late 20s, maybe. And it's really inspiring too. And then to see like, you know, that in his lifetime, he was able to see victory. And that sort of instill this sense of like revolutionary optimism that we too will be victorious, you know? We're both we're both in our 20s, and most of the people in our organization is really young, around the same age that Ho Chi Minh was when he first started, and that in our lifetime we too can see revolution and liberation for our people. Love it. Should we move on to the second read that fact that we have for today from us?
Okay, so this is mine. It's a spicy one. As for our communist parties in Great Britain, Holland, Belgium, and other countries whose bourgeoisie have invaded the colonies, what have they done? What have they done since the day they assimilated Lenin's thesis in order to educate the proletariat of their own countries in the spirit of genuine proletarian internationalism and close contact with the toiling masses in the colonies? What our parties have done in this domain amounts to almost nothing. As for me, born in the French colony and a member of the French Communist Party, I am sorry to say that our party has done very little for the colonies. It is the task of the communist press to acquaint our militants with colonial questions, to awaken the toiling masses in the colonies and win them over to the cause of communism. But what have we done in this respect? Nothing at all. And so I love this because in a way he's very critical of himself for like having done nothing to educate his own people. And like being a member of the French Communist Party, which obviously is a white-led communist organization, they don't have a vested interest in educating the colonial masses because that would come at their expense. And so like the fact that him realizing that, and later you'll see how he overturns that by making his own party or like helping make a party. But I love how he acknowledges that they just failed to conduct propaganda amongst the masses, which is something like Mao stresses a lot in other colonized revolutionaries, the importance of that propaganda. And I love how the org that we are in overturns that because we have a news apparatus like completely dedicated every single day to putting out an article to educate our people. And I mean, we've been putting out an article every single day for like months now, like over half a year, I'm pretty sure. So shout out to Black Hammer Times. You can go to blackhammer.org to find that. Shout out Chief Mace. But yeah, I love this section.
Land back. I really love this section too, because in like the beginning chapter, you see that he was still pondering like, you know, the colonial question, right? He was like making these plead for the French workers to unite with, you know, the colonized people in the colonies. He was trying to make the fight for it. Like he's like, we gotta stop letting like, you know, the colonialists separate us. Like our plights are the same. Like he was trying to unite the workers in France with like, you know, the toiling masses in these colonized countries. And then to see that like, you know, later on, a few more years down the line, and yeah, I think it's merely like 2 or 3 years down the line, he came to realization. He was like, y'all don't care. Like, you know, he's like, the French Communist Party, y'all do not care about the people in the colonies that's suffering, that's making it possible for y'all to be here, that like your life is living at the expense of right now. And that they like won't even write about it in their little newspaper. They don't talk about it. And that he's, yeah, like I unite with you that he's like making that criticism of himself too. Like we haven't done anything about it. And then I think even he's still struggling a little bit with like the colonial question, because he's still like trying to make the recommendation about what they should do, which is like really little. I remember like his like demand was like, we should write about it in our newspaper.
Yeah, acknowledge these people exist. Like that's all he asked for. But,
right. He's like, I think this is a really reasonable request. We should at least publish articles about it in our newspaper and start talking about it. Yeah, he still has that little bit of like hope left that like that the French workers will awaken and like have the right stance on the colonial question. But we'll see that they don't come around. They do not come around. They do not care. Like even the simple, even as simple as a small of like a demand as like, writing articles about it in their little newspaper every week. They still do not come around. They still do not take the right stance on the colonial question. And it really shows you like why we have our principle of unity number 4, that like colonized people have to be like our own leadership, because as we can see, if we rely on the colonizer, they will never liberate us. They will never save us. It's not in their interest to care, like Chief Oju says. It is not in their interest to liberate us, because they're like the French workers, like the colonizers here live at our expense, everything that and our people's expense throughout the world. And they have no interest in fighting for that. What they're fighting for is more like in France, like back in 1921, like they're fighting for the same interest of getting more of the loot, right? Like the French worker was fighting to get more of the loot from all these colonies. They want a bigger share of the pie that the colonialist was like accumulating, but they have no interest in any of the lives of like colonized people in these countries that was suffering much more horrendous conditions than they were. They don't care. CIC's comment, yes, Ho Chi Minh stood against those colonizer communists and them trying to make him his pet boy. He stood by it and for his colonized people. Yeah, yes, full unity. He starts realizing, he's like, these people around me here does not care. And yeah, like DP said, that's who white communists are today. That's who they are today. Nothing has really changed. They're still fighting for their own interests. They still don't care about colonized people, and they never will. Like, I don't know if they'll ever come around.
That's why Black Hammer doesn't allow colonizers, but we do have our colonizer class for them, which we'll talk about later. But we can't have anybody with like, they immediately, the white worker has a parasitic relationship to the rest of the world. And so in that sense, like people said before me, they have no vested interest in liberating people that look like me or MOD or any colonized person. And so that's why Black Hammer is not for the colonizers.
Right. And we're not going to wait for them to care, and this has been like 100 years, right? Almost 100 years since since Ho Chi Minh wrote about this, and they still have not cared. 100 years later, they're still at the same place, and I cannot wait 100 more. Like we don't have time to wait for these like white leftists or these colonizers to wake up to care about our our plight and to care about our people. We just simply cannot wait around any longer. That's why we have to take it into our own hands. That's why we have to lead our own revolution. Because if we're waiting, who knows how many more years? Who knows how many more centuries we would have to wait? I just realized this is literally written 100 years ago, and this is exactly how they're acting today. And it really shows, like, colonialism is still the core of the contradiction. Like, the things that he's talking about, the plight of the people, like, it's still the same. Our people around the world is still suffering under these horrendous conditions by colonialism. And it's because we never solved the core contradiction and what we're here to fight for
we can see that. And we can see that their entitlement will never go away because it's been 100 years, longer than 100 years.
Right.
But I don't know how long. But it's never going to go away. So let's just move on.
Never gonna go away.
Stop trying to work with them. And let's get it cracking.
Yes.
Join Black Hammer.
Join Black Hammer. Yes. blackhammer.org/join. This is the winning team. Because just like Ho Chi Minh comes to a realization later on, he's like, I gotta form my own party, my own organization, because these French communists in France does not give a fuck about us.
The rich
they don't care about us at all. So then we just have to form our own thing, and we have to be our own leadership. And that's exactly what we're doing here in Black Hammer. We are acknowledging the leadership of all colonized people around the world. Yes. Like you see in the comment, join. This is your chance to get on the winning team before we win. Before we have our victory. This is your chance. Are we ready to move on to our fundraising call.
Okay, yeah, so let's get these funds in. I think we're pretty close to our goal already. I know we're over halfway, but please donate. Post your donations in the comments to hashtag Build Hammer City. We are building a city, y'all. You know, no rent, no cops, no corona, and no colonizers. Yeah, donate. Try to get us to that $100 goal or even over. And like I said, help us get there. Can you post your donations in the comments so we can read them all for you? Land back.
And back. We're at $67 right now. We're really close. That's what, $33 from 100? That's like three $10 donations and another $3 one, and we're there. And the slide said we're gonna be in Florida, but we recently $30.
All right, someone just give us $3. That's what we need. Come on.
$3.
Like, all right, there we
20.
are. Thank you, Chief Haney. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Everyone, yay,
On the
y'all are
GoFundMe.
coming through.
We already reached our goal.
Yes, the more you donate, the quicker colonialism dies. That's true. Every donation, yes, $2.
$2.
Every donation is a stomp against white power. The more we donate, the closer that we get. MCC.
Hey, thank you.
$23. Yay! Thank you.
We way past the goal. All right, cool.
We're way past it. I think like 150.
Thank you, everybody. I'll see y'all on
the math.
Let's go.
Yes, y'all ain't free. Y'all want to go? We're at $142 already. Yay! I think we should raise our goal.
Yeah.
$3 from Endu. Yes.
They don't know the power of defense. Get this money in.
$30 in reparations.
Thank you, Scott. Is that reparations? Thank you, Scott.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Yes, y'all. Who's trying to get to Hammer City now? Can't wait for BookTrap in real life. Can y'all imagine? And we just like all sit around live in IRL. $10 from Hammer Emerald. Thank you. Land back, comrade. Get us to Hammer City. This is one of the steps that we're taking as an organization about how we're going to be able to liberate ourselves. Is like this is a concrete step against that. So thank you everyone for your donation. I think we're ready to hop into our next Read That Back. Thank you, Chief Savvy. So this is a quote from Ho Chi Minh at it's the same speech that Anye just read from. It's reports on the national and colonial question. And he's talking about how, in spite of differences in race, climate, custom, traditions, and economic and social development, there are two common points which can lead to their unity in struggle. The economic situation. In all the French colonies, industries and commerce are little developed, and the majority of the population are engaged in agriculture. 95% of the people are peasants, and number two, in all the colonies, the native people are unwittingly exploited by the French imperialist capital. And then he goes on to say how he doesn't have enough time to make a thorough analysis of the situation of each peasant in the colony. But as you can see in this report, he really starts understanding like the colonial question, right? Like, he knows that the French is like colonizing all around the world in 4 different continents, and Ho Chi Minh really recognizes like how that is the core of the contradiction, because he's like, I don't have to know every single little detail about how what the French is doing in like Algeria or Morocco or Vietnam. He's like, I know that all the people's conditions are the same in all these colonies. Like, they're living under horrific conditions. They don't have dictatorship over their lives, lands, or resources. They're being forced, to work in agriculture, and whatever that they do grow goes right back to the French. Like, it gets extracted out of there. It doesn't benefit them in any way. And that, like, and that the people are exploited, the people are poor, the people are suffering, and he's like, that's what unifies all of us. That's why he's like, that's the colonial question. I like, their oppressor, their colonizer is the same person, and it doesn't matter how far away they are in the world and how different they are as people, like with different like lives, traditions, race, climate. He's like, that doesn't matter. Like in the eyes of the French, they just saw them as like, you know, people and resources to take, to exploit, to steal from, to like destroy. And it really relates back to our principle. Well, yeah, like our principle of unity number 3 about how like all of the problem that the colonized face comes from colonialism. And like all the people with different languages spread throughout 4 different continents under French colonialism all suffered the same. And they realized, and like Ho Chi Minh realized that, and he's like, this is what unites them. This is their unity in struggle, and this is what we understand it too. Like as colonized people, we all have like different histories. We all come from different parts of the world. But yeah, like we recognize in Black Hammer that we have to unify as one because our oppressor is the same. It's colonialism, you know, our contradiction is the same. And in the eyes of the colonizer, they just see us as, they see our country as places to like, you know, to steal from our land, anything that we grow out of there. They want, you know, us as like colonized people become loot. They steal us from our countries, they plop us here, and they try to cipher any sort of development, any sort of, you know, anything that colonized people want to do for themselves in their country and here. Like they just aim to destroy it. And that, and just how much, yeah, this still rings true today, 100 years later. I keep going back to that. It's just, it's wild to think about. Like the things that he writes, it still rings true today. Like in all the colonies, you know, that's colonized by different colonizer nations, they still suffer these same conditions. They can't develop, you know, their own industries. They have to do, right now, it's, you know, for a lot of parts of the world, it's no longer agriculture, but it's whatever that the colonizers need, you know? Like whatever their needs are dictates whatever colonized countries have to produce, what their people have to be doing. Like, and they have no control over that. They have no dictatorship over that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what did you think, Anye?
Yeah. I just love this chapter. I think is the longest chapter of the book, and it has so many numbers in it, and I love that because, you know, people lie, numbers don't. And later, he just, there's so many like facts and like statistics about like the land disparity, but like my PDF is different, so I can't give the page number, but in one section he says like in the Belgian Congo, which I love that he's talking about Africa in the first place, but in the Belgian Congo, the population fell from 25 million in 1891 to 8.5 million in 1911, and that's 20 years, and they killed a little over a third of the population, or like only a third of the population was left in 20 years. And that's a shocking number. I know like people say like, oh, that once you get to like 1 million people, it's like hard to like visualize it and like conceptualize it. But to me, that's just shocking, like still. And like even that is like the worst example, but it's still like many examples that he gives, like in French Congo, like I said, Belgian Congo, all the other African colonies. And like the numbers are just shocking, and like using that and saying like how we all have that in common and how that affects all of us, and using that as a point, like using those statistical facts to like unite people, and like proving that they will do anything to keep themselves afloat no matter the expense of you. And in that sense, like they are parasites for that, and that's fact only. Like they like their existence is parasitic to you, and like getting people, like explaining that to people through numbers, it's indisputable. So I love how he goes into detail with that in this section. Land back.
Yeah, land back. Yeah, this section was really great. Yeah, because he had that that chart in the beginning where he talks about how like the fact that France is only like not half a million, like 500,000 square kilometer, but the amount of area that they colonize in terms of colonies that they have is like 10 million. Like,
yeah,
20 times bigger than a
And
like
England was
tiny
like the
country.
worst. England had like 30 times more land than like the size of England. Like I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
have like 151 square kilometers, but then like they have colonized like 35 million. It's like I can't really even like envision how big
Yeah, like
of an area.
the land thing, I can't conceptualize what 100 million. Like I don't even. I'm from North
Yeah,
Carolina,
like
but but
it's like
but like
300
the amount of
North
people though, that is
Carolinas.
shocking to me. Like
Yeah,
it's just insane.
yeah, like yeah, Great Britain had like 45 million people, but then they were colonizing 400 like million people around the world. But yeah, just like these small, so-called like small colonizer countries, like how they're able to take over like majority of the world, and with like all these like Britain, France, US, Spain, Italy, like Belgium, Portugal, Holland, like how they were in control of like most of the world. And that is still true today. Yeah, that is still true today, even because I just saw, didn't Barbados like try to remove the Queen of England as their head of state recently? Like these people are still colonizers still to this day.
And
Can we
the genocide of those people is still going on, which
it's
is
still happening today.
a fight we are in right now.
Yes. Can we bring back Chief Oju's comment? I didn't get to read it. It said that Ho Chi Minh loved all colonized people. There was no question. As a Vietnamese revolutionary, he knew he had to lay out what was going on with the Africans. Yes, full unity. He goes in talking about the different conditions that's happening. He talks about the boxer from, I'm trying to remember what country it was. Senegal?
Yeah, Senegal.
Yeah, about how he really understood the international question, the colonial question. He really cared about the well-beings of all colonized people around the world. He spends a large chunk of the book, the first section, talking about how the plight of Africans. He talks about equatorial Africa as well.
Yeah. And it's really like, as someone who is Black and Asian, it's something that's really important to me. Like I can't really stress how important that is to like realize how connected these struggles are. And I think a lot of times people try to play up, the violence between Asians and African people, when in reality those are just effects of colonialism. Those are not things that we would inflict upon each other in an environment where we are free of colonization. And the fact that he realizes that, and like can connect these struggles to his own, and relate that to his people. And I just love how invested he is in the liberation of people who don't necessarily look like him. And another thing that's just super inspirational about him as a person.
Right. Yeah, like he recognized that these divisions didn't matter. It's about these divisions that the colony tried to instill in us didn't matter. He recognized that they were suffering from the same oppression that he does, and he's like, we must care about all of the colonized people around the world, really unifying that. And that's the stance that we take here. That colonialism has seeked to divide all of us through all the different ways, and that we're not allowing that to happen anymore, because we're recognizing that we have to unify as one, because we have to win. And I think we gonna move on to our final read that back for the day. Time is just flying by.
Right. It's really been 50 minutes. Like I don't know. It seems like that.
We have one more read that back. We gotta get to it.
All right. So morally and physically poisoned, gagged up, and pinned up, this human herd may be thought to be forever destined to the altar of the capitalist god, to have stopped living and thinking, to be of no use in social transformation. Not at all. The Indo-Chinese are not dead. They still live. They will live forever. Systematic poisoning by colonial capitalism has not stamped out their vitality, even less their consciousness. The wind from working-class Russia, revolutionary China, or militant India has cured them of intoxication. It is true that they don't get educated by books or speeches, but in another fashion. Suffering, destitution, and brutal oppression are their only educators. And while the socialists are remiss about their education, the colonial and native bourgeoisie are paying it affectionate attention. The Indo-Chinese are making tremendous progress, and occasion permitting, will show themselves to be worthy of their masters. Under a mask of passivity, they hide something that is seething, rumbling, and will. When the time comes, explode formidably. It is up to the elite to hasten the coming of that moment. The tyranny of capitalism has prepared the ground. The only thing for socialism to do is sow the seeds of emancipation. And I love this section because it shows that like education, it is important, obviously, in like sharpening a revolutionary, but a revolutionary is forged not through that, like reading books, is forged through struggling in this colonial system. And I think that's something that is lost, like completely lost amongst like the white left, because we are truly revolutionaries because this system beats us down constantly. Like trauma has been forced upon us since birth as colonized people. And I just think like he said, like a revolutionary is forged from what he said, suffering, destitution, and brutal oppression. So I just love this section because it shows like how a true revolution is formed. Land back.
Land back. No, full unity. I really unite with the end of that. Like the tyranny of capitalism has prepared the ground. So the only thing for socialism to do is to sow the seeds of emancipation. Also, this is a beautiful piece of writing.
Right.
Like we already talked about it before, very poetic. But yeah, like it's the condition. It's the conditions that the masses of colonized people faces that radicalizes them. And the only thing that, you know, as revolutionary, our goal is just to expose that, you know, to be like, hey, like the things that you are experiencing, the things that you're feeling, it connects to this bigger picture. And guess what? We can fight back against it. You know, guess what? We can win. We can, that it's not just destitution. Like there is a way out. And then once we expose that, once we like politically educate our people on, you know, the inevitability of our victory and the possibility of like liberation, they will rise up. Like they don't need to read, you know, hundreds and hundreds of books to be like, wow, life really sucks. You know, like our people already understand the, you know, the pain and like the things that they already experience, the thing that they see, the like the death and suffering they see all around them. Like they already know that pain. They don't need to be educated on that. They don't need to like understand, you know, like that the conditions of the world, they experience it every single day. And all they need is for someone to come in and be like, hey, like this is not permanent, you know, like that the conditions that we're facing, we can do something about it. Let's do something about it. Let's organize, you know, let's fight. Let's make a better world for people. Our people don't need much.
Right.
More education.
Yeah. Like in a way, like a lot of people say this, they were one to Black Hammer's political line before Black Hammer even existed. And I love that. I love when people say that because we can educate you later. You already realize that you're oppressed and you're a colonized person and that you want to overturn that. You're already united with us and we can sharpen. You're already a revolutionary and we can sharpen you through that education, which is still important. We can because we're doing this book chat. Like this is a political education. We are sharpening ourselves. And yeah, but it's not a necessarily like predecessor. Like you don't need to be already educated to be a revolutionary because you are a revolutionary through struggling and wanting to not struggle anymore.
Right. Yes. And yeah, that's just, as she said in the comments too, like that, like, but how, you know, white communists come into the struggle is through like reading books, you know, they're like, oh, did you know that like racism exists? Do you know? Yeah. Like they're still trying to understand the fact that colonized people are oppressed.
And they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Like, I can believe it.
They're like, I can't believe the prison and industrial complexes
what you mean you can't believe it?
And like children are dying from like treatable illnesses all around the world. What do you mean? Like, you know, like they're reading books to find all these things, to be like, wow, the world's really suffering. And our people don't need that. Our people don't need the books to tell them about all these things. They already live it. They already experience it every single day. All they need is a tool about how to get free. While the white, like, you know, the white left is reading books about the fact that, you know, exploitation and oppression and colonialism even exists in the first place. Like they're not even there. But they will love reading things about like the Soviet Union. Like, you know, they'll like memorize like speeches and songs in like Russian.
Like all of Stalin's speeches, all of it.
Yeah. They can recite that, but they like know nothing about colonized people, or they refuse to even learn anything about colonized people, but they'll like cosplay these like revolutionaries, or more than like
won't even learn to pronounce our names.
No. They won't even pronounce their names.
Food. Like, come on. Start somewhere.
Land back. I don't know. I can't believe it's already been an hour. We have to close it out soon. But Chief Suds comment, let's read it. The masses of colonized people don't need to be waking up to their oppression, only to be waking up to the fact that it can be overturned. Yes, full unity. That's it. That's it. And we gotta spend the time doing that. Like, we gotta spend the time, like, focus our energy in giving our people the tools that they need to be free. That's why we don't dedicate a large portion of our time as an organization to educating colonizers to be awakened to our oppression. You know, like, that's not what we're here to do. That's not what we want to spend our time to do. We want to spend our time on our people. Because like our principle of unity to say, like, we're going to be our own, like, you know, we're going to be our own
salvation.
Leadership. Yeah, like our own salvation. And before I close it out, I just want to talk about, like, why this kind of connects to the book trap too, like why we are doing the book trap, why we are providing that education too right now, to like show our people that it is possible to win. Because as we can see that Ho Chi Minh is contemplating these questions, the plight like 100 years ago, and then as you can see later in the book, they win, that they're able to win, and kind of
showing that. Y'all didn't know Vietnam beats America.
Spoiler alert, Vietnam wins.
Vietnam won, America 0.
Yes, they win victoriously. They defeat, the French, Japanese, and America. That it is possible. And to think that the Vietnam or Indochina was this small, colonized country of people that were suffering. They didn't, they were peasants. They were largely peasants. They were suffering these horrible conditions, going through genocide. But they were able to win against 3, like, giant imperialist colonizing countries, who have, the weapons, or like the 3 of the biggest, colonizing countries in the world, like at the time, like with like, so-called advanced weapons, with more, more well-trained armies and soldiers. But the people win. The toiling masses of Vietnam, they win. They were victorious, and they were able to do it as a small country, as it started with just a few revolutionaries, who I think I read once that it was like around like 10 people, and they had like 3 guns or something, like at their first meeting. And to think that they were able to fight back against the French, the Japanese, and America, like, it's just so it's so inspirational. And to think that, look at what we're doing, comrades, like there's more than 10 of us. There's more than 10 of us now. So to think that what we will be able to accomplish in our lifetime is just really inspiring. And and why you gotta keep sharing this. We gotta keep sharing the political education, sharing our mission with people all around the world, because think about how much more we can do than what Vietnam did with our mission, with our ability to unite all colonized people all around the world. But I think we're gonna move on to announcements. Running a little bit over time. Anje, you want to read this one?
Yeah, so speaking of colonizers, we have our reparations course, which you can find at blackhammer.org/reparations. So it's a weekly 2-hour class from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. The fees start at $25, but it scales up depending on your income. So if you're a white and want to be on the right side of history, join the reparations court, and we're going to get you to fall in line. Land back.
Yes, it's on Sundays. So there's one today at 6 to 8 Eastern. Yeah, like we've been talking about, this is how you can get on the right side question. This is how you can not be like the French communists in 1924. This is your chance now to get on the right side of the question, to commit national suicide. This is now your chance, and it's only going to cost you $25. That's a good deal.
Yeah, it should be way
next, yeah. And really important for all the hammers that's watching it, that we have our Forging the Hammer at 3 Eastern. So in just a few hours. It's only for members. It's our monthly political education. Our theme this month is Never Give Up. So for comrades, remember, get ready, take a small break after this, and then we're going to hop right back on at 3 Eastern to do our monthly political education. Hope to see everyone there. And if you're not a hammer and you want to join, sign up on the website. Come to the next one. They're really fun. It's where we dive into one specific topic and we learn, a bunch of different facets about it. It really helps strengthen our political line. It's where the whole organization gets together every month. But I believe that's all of our announcements. Wait, do we have the amount of money we raised today?
Oh yeah, where are we at on the fundraising? Did we get to 200?
$206.
And stop playing with us. We doubled the dang goal.
Yes, we doubled our goal. Thank you so much, everyone, for donating, for sharing, for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm really excited to get into the next chapter. Next week, we'll be back and we'll be reading section 1831. I know that seems like a lot, but yeah, a chapter is I think the longest one was four pages or something. And it's really nice to be able to see, the reading's really quick, and we're already at 17 right now. So 18 to 31 is gonna be such a breeze. So I hope to see y'all next week. Thank you so much for watching. Land back.